Today, we're reviewing Matt Miller's 7-round 2025 NFL mock draft. Let's jump right into this with the first overall pick. Of course, if you guys are new to the show, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. But he starts out with Cam Ward. We are going over all 7 rounds. If the analysis is a little short, there's a lot of other videos where it's a little bit longer, and so feel free to go check those out. But Tennessee Titans going Cam Ward at 1. It makes sense. Money talks a lot louder than mouths do, and so I do believe that with those one-year signings, especially with Zeitler, it makes a lot of sense that they're trying to shore up for their quarterback rather than trying to tank. Cam Ward is the correct selection. Abdul Carter goes at number 2 overall. I think this is the best move for the Browns. Of course, I've had a spoiler. This is a live reaction apart from what I just saw on Twitter. I'm not a huge fan of what happens in the second round. We'll talk about that, but I do think passing on a quarterback at 2 is a smart thing to do because Abdul Carter and Myles Garrett, I think, provide a lot more value to a team than Shedeur Sanders would. But we'll talk about Shedeur in a moment. At number 3, you got the Giants going Shedeur Sanders here. I do believe that with Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston, they are going to pass on Shedeur Sanders at 3. There's no reason to reach, and I know that Joe Shane is a GM that doesn't like to reach, and everybody and their mom, except for the Shedeur fan club, believes that Shedeur Sanders is not worth a number 3 overall pick. I have a strong sense that he's going to fall to the late first, if not past that. The NFL has very, very stark opinions and very strong ones, and they don't agree with us very often. So even if you do think that Shedeur is worth this pick, the NFL doesn't seem to ever care. But the Giants going after Shedeur Sanders would not be a bad move. I would just say when you have Winston and Wilson, I don't think year 1 Shedeur would provide very much more, and that is what really matters to Dable and Shane. At number 4, the Patriots go Travis Hunter. Honestly, low-key, I believe that they took Shedeur Sanders here at 3 because it would be impossible to choose the right move for the Patriots at 4. I love Matt Miller. Got to meet him in person, but I will say it kind of feels like a cheap move every time I see Shedeur in the top 4 because I genuinely do not believe that he is going to be taken there. But the Patriots going Travis Hunter is the correct move if they are not able to select Travis Hunter, and he goes at number 3. It's going to be a lot more interesting. So we'll see what happens there, but that's the correct move. At number 5, we got the Jaguars going Mason Graham. Feels very similar to Braden Fisk, so James Gladstone, Fisk connection. Mason Graham brings pretty much every single aspect that Fisk did in a younger and more high potential frame. At number 6, we got the Las Vegas Raiders going T-Mac, Tetairoa McMillan. Exciting to see that he ended up boosting up the boards again, because I know that Matt Miller ended up having him drop, but the Raiders getting an X receiver certainly makes a lot of sense. I would just say there are some guys in this class that I do think could fill out that role down the line. At the same time, Ashton Genty's role as a primary running back could also be filled down the line. And again, this is a live reaction, so you guys are seeing this with me. At number 7, the Jets go Armand Membu. I think this is the correct decision. It feels very similar in terms of the overall prototypical build for Olu Fashanu. You get a high-level athlete that is going to be your bookend right tackle. They both have similar development curves. I think it would be a great move. At number 8, the Panthers going Jalen Walker. I'd explained this several times, and again, that's why I'm going to keep these a little bit more succinct until we can talk about some more non-standard analysis. But the Panthers have had elite linebacker plays since Luke Kuechly, and possibly even before that. I just wasn't as aware of roster depth when I was like 10 or 7 years old. But Jalen Walker would be continuing that. I don't know. There's certain individuals who I love and I trust that don't love Jalen Walker at all, whether it's a linebacker or an edge. For me, I'm a little bit out in a different realm. I do think he'd be worth this selection. And apparently the NFL thinks so as well. The New Orleans Saints go Jahdae Barron at 9. I just don't see Jahdae really fitting, and I ended up reevaluating Jahdae. I don't think he'd play. I think he plays thinking that he moves the way he tested at the combine, but I don't think he actually plays at that speed. It's quite intriguing. Like the more I watched him, even into the Ohio State game, really did not see the athleticism with that 4.39 pop-up any way, shape, or form. It's good to know that he has it, but I do think he takes himself out of position thinking that he can bait a little bit better than he actually does at an NFL level. Hopefully he can end up adjusting for that. At number 10, the Chicago Bears go Ashton Genty. That's a pipe dream. You really hope that it could happen. I don't think it does, but this would be the dream come true. Again, I feel like the Raiders taking Tetairoa was like, I'm not going to try to make any claims here because, again, I love Matt Miller. Got to meet him in person. He's a genuinely good dude. But I do think that like the Raiders passing on Genty was to make the Bears pick less controversial. I'm just going to throw it out there. It kind of feels like there's been a couple purposeful curveballs that have been designed to make other more controversial picks easier. Just going to put that out there. Niners going Will Johnson's the best thing they can do. He's the best player in the class when healthy. People just got prospect fatigue on him. Go and watch him, and this guy's an absolute super stud. If you look at my board, it is not predictive. It is based on the players that I love in the order that I love them. If you see a plus, that is a pre-injury grade. That is not post-injury. I am no doctor, so I'm not going to be someone to truly determine it, but I will be able to show you what I did think of the talent before. The Cowboys go Tyler Warren at number 12. It's a position they could upgrade. I don't think that's the most pressing position. I'd prefer for them to go after more of a wide receiver, but Tyler Warren is a fantastic weapon. It's an interesting curveball and something that could possibly happen, but I definitely don't think the Cowboys are on the tight end round 1 market, especially if they end up sending their quarterback away to the Browns, which apparently there's some talks going on right now about that. The Dolphins go Will Campbell here at 13. Apparently, he ended up going to 33 inches, which, it's weird. I think this thing got released today. He ended up measuring at LSU's Pro Day at 33 inches. I don't know. That guy's been doing a lot of hangs or something. I don't understand how the hell your arm grows literally nearly half an inch, but he has 33-inch arms. I think his biggest issue is not necessarily arm length. It's spatial awareness. He gets beaten to the inside way too often, and I worry that he has issues understanding where he is in the pocket. So I do have that concern for him, but the high-level play is awesome. I would just say I don't think this would be the move that you guys actually go after, even though it's probably the right move. Greer does not value left guard, and that's where Will Campbell would play in the short term. He's not going to give up on a second-round tackle he just drafted last year. I don't understand why that's so hard to believe. Like, again, another pick that just kind of seems to be like a safer one that's less controversial. I personally don't get that. At number 14, the Colts go Colston Loveland. I've heard that there's a lot of teams that love Colston Loveland a lot. And if they do, then this is very, very possible. But I think the Colts should be looking for someone who's a little bit more, especially since you have Steichen there, a little bit more closer to Dallas Goedert as a primary guy who could be a blocker and a receiver, a lot more balance. And that's kind of what you hope for with Tyler Warren. Colston Loveland, I don't think fits the bill like that, but he's a good talent. If you guys do end up, like, air quotes, reaching on him there, not the end of the world. Falcons go Jahad Campbell at 15. I'd love to see him used as an edge rusher as well. He was the number 1 edge from his high school class. And so I think that there's a lot of untapped potential there for him. He just needs to continue growing and developing. But the Falcons get themselves a unique piece on the defensive line and in the linebacking core, which is going to be intriguing to see. So far I haven't seen the Falcons really utilize their defensive players very well. So I'd be a little bit worried about a very raw, flexible piece like Campbell working out. But TBD if that will end up working out. Cardinals go Mike Green at 16. There's off-the-field stuff. You guys can now do your own research. There's plenty of it out there. It wasn't like back at at the Senior Bowl when I was first hearing it from some inside sources. It's pretty damn public now, but you guys can end up doing that, debating whether that's something that you will value or not. And in this case, it looks like that's not going to be the value. I graded Mike Green very well in terms of an athlete. I think he's far overrated in terms of how early he can end up performing at a high level. I think he's a DPR right now who's a great athlete, and that's a really solid place to be. Now, for the Cardinals, with the quantity of edge rushers that you have, I just don't think this is the right move. I think Kenneth Grant and getting someone who could be a true piece on the defensive front is going to be a far wiser option. But if you go Mike Green, the world's not going to end, right? It's not going to end unless the, allegations end up being true. At number 17, you got the Bengals going Nick Eamon-Warry. I don't know if the Bengals would end up doing this, but I don't mind them doing it at all. You guys see where he is at on my board. I really do think that he's a super stud. I do worry about him playing like against actual like standard runs. I do think like outside zone, he performs pretty damn well, but when it comes to gap concepts, he does have a really tough time. And he does react pretty late to runs, but in the open field, he's one of the most reliable tacklers, which makes me a lot more confident for him in the future. At South Carolina, like, you're pretty much, I don't necessarily see South Carolina defenders being like primary run defenders. And for the Bengals, I would hope for them to just make sure that the rest of the defense doesn't require Nick Eamon-Warry to be the first line of defense. If there's a breakthrough, hopefully Nick Eamon-Warry is someone who could just shore up an open field rather than have to be the primary defender to stop a home run hitting run, because it can get a little messy there. But Al Golden loves his safety play. Xavier Watts was a big one for him, who I'm a bit lower on, but We could talk about that when he ends up coming up. Seahawks going Matt Golden. I mean, we're going to talk about offensive line, but we have 7 rounds here to see how they end up addressing the offensive line. Matt Golden's a great player. Your wide receiver core is a lot weaker than I think people want to give it credit for. Matt Golden's a great compliment to JSN as well as Cooper Kupp. So it's a good weapon. I like that move personally. Buccaneers then go Malachi Starks at 19. I don't think that safety is going to be a primary position I'd go after, but it's okay to go after just the best player available. Malachi Starks definitely could be that on Bulls' board. If that's the case, I support it. However, I think there's enough edge rushers where I think unless you see one really start to fall, I'd prefer to go after that route. Luther Burden goes to the Broncos at 20. I mean, I personally think this is fine. You give a relief option there for Bo Nix. I'm not the highest guy on Luther Burden. That's just me, but I also think that he's a very solid player. But Luther Burden, nonetheless, to the Broncos, I could totally see him being utilized even as a running back in certain systems. The Steelers go Azareye'h Thomas at 21. After running his this feels so weird as if this was made like 3 weeks ago. Because like Azareye'h Thomas just ran like a 4.55 to 4.6 at his pro day. He's not going to go first round. And you know me, I love Azareye'h. And his grade, he's at 22 right now. He will be dropping because of that. I did not update it for his pro day statistic because there's not an official number out yet. But I mean, bottom line is his acceleration out of the cut, I had issues with it when I saw him in person in Mobile. And then I got to see him in person at SMU. I thought he did a great job, but the Florida State's defense utilized Azareye'h as good as you could possibly imagine. The moment he started being in different systems and, testing in different areas, you could definitely see that there were some areas of growth, and acceleration out of his break is a big one. He's way too tall. And so I do think his acceleration suffers, which I'd be curious to see what the 10-yard split would be. But I mean, I do love Azareye'h. I just would say he's a round 2 guy for me right now. And I had him as my corner 4 coming into the year. If he goes to the Steelers, all is not lost. It feels very similar to Joey Porter Jr., but I would almost say it's opposite in terms of Azareye'h being much better as a man coverage player than the zone player that I thought of Joey Porter Jr. The Chargers go Amari and Hampton, which I think that both the Broncos and the Steelers should have done, but the Chargers end up doing it because, Najee Harris is on a 1-year deal. You can't end up betting on that. Amari and Hampton is, in my opinion, the best running back in the class because of the 9 fumbles that Genty's had over the past 2 years. Packers then go Kelvin Banks at 23. I mean, it just depends. Do you think Kelvin Banks is going to be your long-term left tackle, which in this situation, they're saying he is? And then, what's going to happen on the interior of the offensive line, right? You right now have a rotation of guards, which is very intriguing. And Jordan Morgan was a left tackle. The question is he looked at as a long-term guard, which right now he's a short-term, but Kelvin Banks versus that might have some issues there. But at number 24, the Vikings go Max Hairston. And this is something I have to call out publicly. Shout out to somebody ended up emailing me saying hey, by the way, there are 2 cases open. You guys can look on the Kentucky Crime Log for yourself, University of Kentucky Crime Log. March 25th, 2021. I ended up misquoting the wrong day or the wrong case. And that's on me, but of course they make it nearly impossible. I'll blame the University of Kentucky a little bit. The only difference is one was labeled as a hospital case versus a dorm case. And so Max Hairston's case is closed. Does that mean he didn't do anything? No. But that also does mean that something did happen. They're not just ignoring it. There's something that happened in there. So do your own research on that. It's certainly, again, I don't want to say stuff that's incorrect. It genuinely bothered me. The moment I saw that email, I'm like, that's interesting. And I wanted to make sure that I dispelled any false narratives possible. But there was an incident with Max Hairston in the past. It's been closed. Does that mean it happened? Yes and no. It means that there was at least an incident, but that also means that, if it were closed and, he's still out and about, might have been a settlement, might have just been completely free. And I pray to the Lord himself that Max Hairston is as nice of a guy as he looks. He looks like a genuinely good human being. And I'm just praying that, the evil one is unfortunately somebody who would try to take advantage of his status, but we are far from a position, and I'm far from a position to be able to make a determination on that. All we can hope for is that, no one was actually legitimately hurt. So fingers crossed on that. But if he is completely free and everything's good, the NFL has better PIs than we do, so we'll see. Minnesota Vikings going Max Harrison would be a very interesting and solid move, but I just don't know about it at 24. I don't think that his tape, even when injured, even when healthy, matched up to number 24. Sometimes people get stuck in the combine measurements and the testing to the point where they look over the actual play. It should only affirm or cause you to go back, not necessarily change, right? If you go back and then you're like, man, yeah, he does look a little slow in that instance, that's where you end up saying, okay. Or if you're like, wow, he might have just been a little bit hampered there. We see that he has that athleticism. You can end up, boosting their grade. But Texans go Josh Simmons here at 25, kind of the dream pick. This dude straight up had like a 30-second display, like 5 months after tearing his patellar tendon. And the dude looked more athletic, arguably, than Armand Membu. So Josh Simmons is a stud. I could totally see him going even into the top 10. I mean, he looks like he's going to be perfectly healthy, which, I mean, people want to say the patellar tendon is worse than an ACL. I think the only reason it's worse is because now we've gotten so comfortable with ACL return to work. God, I'm back in corporate world, but being able to return to the field and recovery, it's a lot more consistent and it's a lot more known. Patellar tendon's a little bit slower, or at least a little bit more unknown, right? They have similar return frames, but the NFL has just gotten a lot more efficient with the ACL returns. So we'll see what happens there. Rams go Jackson Dart at 26. I've said this before. I also think this is a massive whiff of a pick. This is not the first time I'm seeing this. So this is why I'm repeating myself from before. The Rams, if Matt Stafford is coming back, do everything you can to make your team competitive. Like Jackson Dart, no offense, he is nowhere close to the talent that a first-round quarterback should be for sitting behind Matt Stafford. He doesn't have the upside that the Rams could say, oh, we're going to risk wasting the end of Matt Stafford's career with our pretty much only first-round pick that we really see from the Rams outside of Jared Verse. It feels like really bad usage of the pick. Jackson Dart doesn't bring the upside. He doesn't bring really a lot. He'd work well in the Rams system, but you're talking about a first-round pick when Matt Stafford finally agreed to return. That's something you need to use to help out Matt Stafford, whether it's, mitigating the amount of work he has to do by having a better defense or by helping him out on the offense. But I don't think Jackson Dart is remotely the answer. The Baltimore Ravens go Derek Harmon at 27. By the way, if they go this route, I would not be surprised for Matt Stafford to ask for a trade, because I can guarantee you part of the discussion about him returning, because he took less money and everything too, is that, you're like, we need to make the most out of the end of my career right now, guys, and you're going to use my first round pick on my replacement. It's something I can't see the Rams doing. I can't. I know that the Rams organization can do what's best in their own self-interest, but I highly doubt that that's going to be Jackson Dart. At number 27, the Ravens go Derek Harmon, though. Great measurables. They need some defensive interior help, and he can end up with his athleticism flexing to being more of a Calais Campbell role with better body type. But I don't know. I don't think Derek Harmon. I'm a little bit lower on Derek Harmon, which sucks because I was a sucker for him back when he was at Michigan State. So it kind of it is what it is. But it's come full circle. I hope that Derek Harmon has a great career. I just don't see him as a first round player. Lions go Gray Zabel at 28. Honestly, you got to plan for the future, and that's incredible. I do think that he'd end up being Frank Ragnow's replacement, and then he'd be a short-term guard. I don't think this would be a bad move whatsoever. Really good move there for the Lions, and that's a good curveball. Shamar Stewart goes to the Commanders at 29. I'm not a big fan of Shamar Stewart overall. There's this one clip, I think it might have been versus Missouri, but he basically ended up making a big hit on a wide zone run. And what kind of pisses me off is that people try to look at that as an example of him doing a great job. And if you kind of you got a whiteboard, or let's just say you had a camera that was directly overhead, the tackle was behind where the running back was. So this is Shamar, this is the tackle, this is the running back. The tackle can't really do anything except push you almost into the running back. So he just disengaged and hit the running back. It wasn't like some crazy thing where he shed through the tackle to it. People just don't understand what happens with physics and where people are. And that's okay. It is what it is. And I mean, I make mistakes all the time too, but I mean, the amount of people pushing the Shamar Stewart is the GOAT agenda, and he has the potential to be a superstar. Do not get me wrong. I don't blame the Commanders for going Shamar at 29, but the people who are talking about this guy as the best of the best, let's relax. All right. The tape doesn't say he's the best of the best at all, but it was fun to see in Mobile. At number 30, you got Bills going Trey Amos. Love seeing the Amos love. He's a crazily underrated athlete. I mean, he ran 4.43, and I think that his change of direction could use some work, but he's very physical, always at the catch point. It'd be a good pickup there for the Bills. Chiefs go Michael Williams at 31. Crazy to see him fall this far, but honestly, edge number 2 is kind of lacking. You got Karlaftis there, which is super great, but when you need something more. Felix has not necessarily lived up to being a true edge 2, in my opinion, especially for where you guys took him at the end of the first. I think Michael would be great to add into that rotation. Again, since you have guys like Felix there as that edge 2, you don't necessarily need Michael to be creme de la creme off the bat. Ezraku goes to the Eagles at 32. He's just too safe of a prospect, in my opinion, to fall to 32. I think there's enough teams in the way that would end up wanting to bring him on. But this is the dream pick. Pretty sure he's from the Philly area as well. But he is that's the dream pick for you guys at 32. Number 33, this is what I was talking about earlier. Tyler Shuck goes to the Browns. Now, Tyler Shuck, I have my quarterback video out. Feel free to go check that out. I end up breaking every single quarterback down with a whole entire game evaluation. So I try to take it a step further than what some other people do, where they try to talk about overall analysis. I try to give you guys a whole game where you guys can kind of watch it with me, so to speak, but not with the visuals because that's heavily copyrighted. But I digress. Tyler Shuck is like a very high ceiling quarterback, but a super low floor. I mean, the guy makes some dumbass decisions. Now there's a clip going around from him at Texas Tech, kind of just yeeting the ball into defenders. And he has done that quite a few times. But the biggest issue is that he's old. Kind of feels like Brandon Whedon. And then also the guy's made of glass. I mean, I'm pretty sure his 3 season-ending injuries. The high-end play, cool. But the availability is the best ability, especially at the quarterback position in the NFL. Giants then go Emeka Egbuka. Highly doubt that he slips here to the second, but the Giants would be doing themselves a big service by taking Egbuka here at 34. The Titans then go Tyler Booker at 35. I mean, where's he playing? Are you going to, where's he playing? Because are you going to bench Skoronski? Adding Booker 2-4. So what happened? What? What happened to Zeitler, man? I mean, cool. Booker's a great player, but I mean, it'd be cool to see Latham and Booker back together. Don't get me wrong. But what? All right, there's too many picks for me to be staying on that too long. That's just a bad pick. Jaguars going Mason Taylor. There'd just be no reason for this as well. You look at both systems that is pretty much governing this offense, with Gladstone as the GM and then Cohen as the as the head coach and pretty much the leader of the offense. Both of them did not use high-end tight ends, right? They maximized value there. Do not see this happening at all. At 37, the Raiders go Trey Henderson, going back with Chip Kelly. Love seeing that. I do think Trey Henderson's a little bit overrated, but great blocker as well. That probably is going to add a lot more value than maybe I give it credit for. He's a fun back. He's a home run hitter. I don't think that it would be a bad move. I just have him a little bit lower than maybe some others do. Pats end up sniping Josh Connerly. Again, Pats are kind of killing it. I mean, that's just what happens. Is why I say don't go Will Campbell at 4, because there's going to be some fucker like Josh Connerly that ends up slipping number 38. Some asshole in a motorbike is revving, in case you guys are hearing that. Apologies if you do. KG falls to the Bears at 39. Not going to happen, even though I'm lower on KG probably than any person in terms of his talent right now. The ceiling is absolutely there, and I really do want to emphasize that Kenneth Grant could be a legitimate superstar. He has great work ethic. He has great athleticism for his build. This guy's going to be a freak. So if the Bears end up having the opportunity at 39, it's a no-brainer. What? Come on, Matt. Come on. The Saints go Quinn Ewers at 40. I mean, I know he was dealing with some injuries over the past year, but I feel like pick 400 is closer to where Quinn Ewers should go than pick 40. That's a really hot take, but Quinn genuinely has some of the best throws you see, and he has some of the worst. That is not something you take at 40. I'm sorry, because the biggest thing is, if you flipped the consistency of Ewers and Will Howard, I'm all game at this, right? But Will Howard stepped up in the playoffs. Quinn Ewers looked like absolute shit when it actually came down to him having to win games. He looked like crap. What? I have a lot of respect for Matt Miller, and I love the guy. I do feel like this might not be his own work. I'm just going to be honest. This doesn't feel like Matt Miller. Bears go Xavier Watts at 41. It makes a lot of sense to have a contingency plan for Kevin Byard, but leaving this range without another edge rusher, or even a tackle, like you can get Ariante Ursary and have him sit for a year. I can't support it. I can't support it. I really can't. Tyleik Williams, the Jets, my dream combo for him is Membu and Williams. That's a great signing or a great pickup right there. Walter Nolan at 43 is a great pickup for the Niners. I mean, I'm not even the highest guy on planet Earth for Walter Nolan, and I still think this is an absolute fleece. Cowboys going to Caleb Johnson. If you're just going to do this, man, I mean, hell, you'd be in a lot better place, in my opinion, going after Amari and Hampton at 12, and then going after, what other tight ends are? I don't think you should even be going for a tight end. Go after Jaden Higgins here, right? I really, really am not liking how this is shaking up for the Cowboys. Donovan Jackson goes to the Colts. Honestly, interior offensive line got a lot more needy than you expect. And Donovan Jackson's tackle versatility, too. He's a great player. He's just gone so under the radar. I honestly forgot, where the hell do I have him? He's at number 27 on my board. And again, Azareye'h Thomas is going to be dropping, so he's technically at number 26. Donovan Jackson, he's very underrated. I don't know why people are sleeping on him too much, but, whoever takes him is going to get a damn good player. Falcons go Alfred Collins, getting a big nose to plug again. For this team, I would want Kenneth Grant in the first, because this is showing that very similarly, you're thinking, hey, they need to get a nose very early. And then I go after a pass rusher here. Just the options, in my opinion, are just way better. I like Alfred Collins, but it's I don't know. Cardinals go Jalen Knoll at number 47. He'd be a good compliment there to Harrison as well as Wilson. I think that'd be a very nice addition. Just at 47 again, it's not that Knoll's not worth a legit second-round pick. I have him worth a third, right? So it's not the biggest stretch on planet Earth to see him go in the second. But just with the offensive lineman on the board, with the offensive line probably being one of the more underrated needs for this team, I just find it very hard. We'll see how they address it as time goes on, though. Of course, that's the beauty of a 7-round mock. Dolphins go Carson Schwezinger at 48. We'll see how that ends up developing and turning out, but he's a good player nonetheless. Shout out to Oaks Christian. He's also alumni of my high school, so got to support him wherever I can, but maybe 48 seems a little bit of a stretch. At number 49, the Bengals took James Pierce Jr., and at this point, it's certainly possible that James Pierce is falling here primarily due to coaching concerns. Every time a player's been labeled as a coaching concern, they always fall out of the first round. Last year, it was Jerzon Newton, and Jerzon Newton was a player where you see the talent. He was a bona fide first. Same thing as James Pierce Jr., but I will say, look at the interviews of James Pierce Jr. Maybe he's just not a good orator, but there's just something that does seem to be the screws are a little bit more loose than one would want to. And you guys know me, he was my number 2 player for pretty much the entire year. So I am as biased towards loving James Pierce Jr. as anybody that you'd find. But at 49, it's well worth the risk. And then in Al Golden's defense, he doesn't necessarily need the largest players on planet Earth to make it work. Seahawks go Tate Ratledge at 50. I mean, ultimately, you go offensive line here. I know you went Matt Golden earlier. You might as well do what you got to do. Tate Ratledge is a good player. I don't think he's number 50 overall, but he's a good player nonetheless. Broncos go Quinshon Judkins at 51. Really good value right there. Obviously, he's a top-end back. Could see him slipping maybe a little bit further than what people like, because he's just he could go higher. He could be a first-round quality player, but he also could end up slipping to the third, just depending on what people's vision is for Quinshon, because he's been primarily most effective in either Lane Kiffin's system or into a heavy running back by committee set. Seahawks then also grabbed Jared Wilson here, so I do like the idea of pairing up the Georgia interior offensive linemen. Both of them I do feel is a little bit of a reach. I think Jared Wilson's ceiling is a crazy high, but I also haven't seen the Seahawks develop interior offensive linemen that well, and I think Jared Wilson needs a lot of development. So I do worry about that, but the high-end reps are ridiculous. Sometimes it's worth taking the swing. The Buccaneers keep killing it by revamping their secondary with Ben Morrison at 53. Ben Morrison's a great player. We'll leave it at that. Packers and Snipes, Savone Ravel. I honestly don't know if the Cowboys would pass on him in the second round, but The Packers end up sniping him here at 54. Really good value. Chargers go Trey Harris. As long as the medicals check out, he's a solid receiver. I don't think that I would necessarily try to touch Trey Harris here in the second round, but he's overall a solid player. It sucks that I was not able to see him in person at the Shrine Bowl because of health. The Bills go Andrew Makuba at 56. He had a fantastic year. He has some really high-end zone IQ. I would just say I am a little bit more lower on Andrew Makuba in terms of like late third, early fourth round, but he's still a very good player nonetheless. Panthers go Ty Robinson in the second round. He was clearly tiers below pretty much the majority of players in Mobile. He was just fast because, he's sub 290. I don't see him being a day 2 pick. He's, to me, pretty much locked into day 3. I don't like that pick. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not a fan of that pick. Texans then go Marcus Bowe at 58. Honestly, Marcus is friend of the show. He's going to be a really solid guard. He's feisty, has really good technique. He's still putting it together, but I like the idea of continuing to retool the offensive line there. Ravens then go Darian Porter at 59. I absolutely think they could be going after a corner here on the boundary. They are kind of lacking outside of, of course, their first round pick before Nate Wiggins, but Darian Porter, 4.3 speed is going to be ridiculous there with those wide receiver skills. Lions go Nick Scordon at 60. Unbelievable value. He's a first round player to me, so we'll just leave it there. The Commanders end up getting Kevin Winston Jr., who just ran about a 4.45 to 4.5 6 months after his surgery. Very high ceiling player. Don't know why he came out, but if he goes in the second, then that would end up telling us why he ended up coming out so early. The Bills then go Jaden Higgins at 62. He tested out much better than he plays on the field, which is exciting to see if maybe you could translate some of that. Jaden Higgins is a fantastic wide receiver. He's my number 3 receiver in the class. You got the Chiefs then going Charles Grant at 63. I would say this is an absolute whiff. Complete whiff in my opinion. Just Charles Grant needs so much development, and this is like the one team that's proven time and time again to not develop tackles at all. It would be a shit show in my opinion. Eagles go Elijah Arroyo at 64. Arroyo, if he can stay healthy, because I know he's had some knee problems, could be a legitimate Dallas Goedert replacement. I'd be a fan of that, but again, that's a big if, right? The history has not shown that that's going to be the case, especially when you could have gotten Darius Alexander, who goes to the Giants at 65. Great pickup there for them. He's a little bit older, but especially for a GM and a head coach that needs something right away, makes a lot of sense. The Chiefs then go Josh Farmer at 66. Very athletic. Well, he actually tested out worse than what, the tape shows, which I prefer that. If I'm just going to be real, I'd prefer for you to test poorer and look better and more athletic on tape, but Josh Farmer, 35-inch arms, would be intriguing to be an understudy to Chris Jones. Then we got the Browns going Dylan Sampson at 67. Dylan Sampson's a good running back. I am just a bit lower on him myself. I've been a bit lower on Tennessee backs, and maybe that's just a thing for me. But Dylan Sampson going to the Browns could bring that home run hitting ability. You got the Vegas Raiders going Landon Jackson at 68. I think that's solid value. He has a very unique frame build, and the agility is great for what he actually brings to the table, and obviously the explosiveness. You see that with a 40-inch vertical that he had at the combine. So at 68, good value there for the Raiders. At number 69, the Patriots go Eli Maynor. I think health would be the main reason why you'd be concerned with him to the point where he'd slip to this point. If he does, the Patriots get an absolute snipe. Jaguars go Savion Williams at 70. Doesn't feel like a very Rams or really a Buccaneers pick, i.e. where the GM and head coach are from. So I would not necessarily say this is a very good fit. I also think Savion Williams is extremely overrated. He's a 6'4" wide receiver who can, run after the catch. His hands are not good. He has good contested catch numbers, but how do you just drop simple passes? That was kind of Johnny Wilson's issue last year. And Johnny Wilson, in my opinion, was 10 times the receiver of Savion Williams. Then we have the Saints going Jalen Royals. Jalen Royals is a damn good receiver. Even at 80%, he was destroying people in Mobile. I think that'd be a good pick for the Saints. The Bears go Jacob Parrish at 72. At his height, you're having to put him in the slot. That'd be an intriguing thing to do. I don't think that's going to be worth it in the end for the Bears. Jalen Reed goes to the Jets at 73. This is one of the few safeties I have not finished my official grade on, but the Jets need extra DB help, and I love my Penn State defensive players in general, so I think that's fine. At 74, Panthers go Isaiah Bond. Good value, high ceiling. Don't know why he came out. At 75, we got the Niners going Ursery. I don't understand why Ariante Ursery would fall this far, but in this case he does. The Niners get themselves an absolute steal. At number 76, we got the Cowboys going Jack Besh. It's a very Cowboys pick. He's my wide receiver one. Feel free to go look at my wide receiver video if you guys are wondering why. I genuinely think he is one of the smartest receivers I've ever studied in terms of being able to maximize opportunity for his quarterback. He is fantastic. 77, the Patriots go Princey Umamielen. Very, very productive. Good value in the third round right here. Cardinals then get Emory Jones Jr. at 78. That's really solid value with the upside for the guard spot. If you take him as a pure tackle, I would have some concerns, but you do have the upside there nonetheless. At 79, we got the Texans going Terrence Ferguson. I really feel like that's a little bit early. I mean, obviously you drafted Stover last year and he still has time to develop, but Terrence Ferguson's a good player, so it's not the end of the world, and he has some blocking ability. The Colts pair up Femi Oladejo with another UCLA edge rusher there in Leatu Latu. Big fan of that one. I think he's going to be going in the second round. At 81, you got the Bengals going at Quincy Riley, super high IQ, very, very smart player, great track athlete who's been playing hurt all year long. He is a bit older. I would probably say that you should be falling into that day 3 territory, but continuing to load up on defensive back pieces is never a bad idea. Seahawks go Josiah Stewart at 82. Super productive. Pretty small arms. Just, I feel like he should be. This is a good range for him to go. Steelers get Jalen Milroe at 83. I honestly wouldn't be that against this at this point, especially if we get Aaron Rodgers. It's like, let Jalen Milroe sit and then even take some like running back reps. I know that's like degrading to Jalen Milroe, but he could end up being like first round quality as a running back. Like he is one of the most explosive playmakers with legs that I've seen. So it would be intriguing to see how that would end up working out. Buccaneers go Jack Sawyer at 84. Sometimes you just got to get a good player even if the measurables don't work out. Jack Sawyer is well worth 84th overall. Broncos go Shamar Turner at 85. Very high-end defensive interior piece who is top 35 on my board coming into the year formerly as an edge. I think that he'd be a really good understudy to Zach Allen as well. You got the Chargers going Miles Frazier. It's a bit early for him, in my opinion, but he is a fun player, a nasty run blocker, and definitely someone who could understudy Mekhi Becton for a year or two. Then we got the Green Bay Packers going Torrey Horton. I wish that we got to see a little bit more of him this year, but after the catch, one of the best to do it. I mean, he literally leaves guys just whiffing, tackling air, and it's really fun to see. So he's a good player. I don't know about 87, but good player nonetheless. Craig Woodson goes to the Jaguars at 88. I feel like that's a big reach, but I mean, there's going to be a lot of picks in this. There's no reason to overanalyze certain ones, but defensive back is not a bad idea. I just don't think Craig Woodson is a day 2 player. Texans then go TJ Sanders at 89. That's a damn good day 2 player and a snipe. TJ Sanders is very underrated, very good player nonetheless, and the Texans can use defensive interior. Then the Rams go Caleb Branshaw, who tested out of his mind, but I did not see a day 2 player out of Caleb Branshaw. I feel like this is something more for pick 190 than pick 90. The Ravens go Jonah Savania, and this is a very Ravens pick. You get a developmental offensive lineman that can flex to all positions, and you let him be a swing offensive lineman while he's continuing to train up to, eventually be that starting guard. I think that'd be a good idea. Then we have the Seahawks going Ozzie Trapilo. That's incredible, especially because Abe Lucas on the right side with Ozzie Trapilo being a right tackle, having his injury concerns. I think that's incredible. Amazing value. Ozzie Trapilo is my number 1 true tackle in the class. At number 93, you got the Saints going JT Tuimoloau. I find it ridiculous that he'd slip to here, but this is an amazing pick. And I mean, it really would be their Trey Hendrickson. At 94, the Browns go Anthony Belton, as if they needed any more firepower on the offensive line. It's not necessarily good, but they have a lot of tenacity there. And it fits very much in line with who they just got in Tevin Jenkins. So that would honestly be a really, really good mentality match if you want to match the energy with Belton as well as Jenkins. At 95, the Chiefs go Noel Williams. I could totally see this happening. It kind of feels very similar to what they ended up doing with, I'm trying to remember, I think it's Watson. Yeah, like it feels very similar to Watson in terms of the ball skills and the physicality. 96, you got the Eagles going Jordan Phillips. Solid nose tackle. I wasn't moved by him, but I mean, defensive interior is not a bad move for Philly at 96. 97, you would go Jalen Rivers for the Vikings. He is really, really immobile overall. That got him in trouble as a tackle. He's a powerful player with 35-inch arms. I would just say for the second pick, with all the running backs on the board, I would say there's better options overall. I mean, I know, to be fair, you don't need to go running back. Like maybe a third wide receiver in there, continuing to develop those corners. Like we'll see what happens overall. At 98, we have Billy Bowman going to the Miami Dolphins. And I mean, with the lack of defensive backs, you're really going to be pushing it here. But Billy Bowman is a really solid player, big playmaker. He's fun to watch. And, you might end up getting bailed out by having to wait till this point and still getting Billy Bowman. Giants then go Barrett Carter at 99. Solid, young, athletic linebacker. I don't know if that's really the position I think the Giants need to focus the most on, but I mean, you can't really go wrong because linebacker is a position that continues to churn through guys in the NFL. At 100, the Niners then go Cam Williams. They're kind of sniping all the high-end offensive tackles. I think that's a great understudy for a minimum of a year or two. At number 101, the Rams go Demetrius Knight. That's incredible value. I have him being a solidified pure day two player, so this is really good. At 102, the Lions go Dylan Fairchild, and this is one of the few guards I don't have fully graded off the bat, but Fairchild ended up doing pretty damn well in the limited experiences that he's had. For round number 4, I like this. We got it fully stacked like this. The Titans go Jordan Birch, who I think is a legitimate day two player. He's fantastic. That would be a great pickup for Tennessee. The Browns go J.J. Pegues at 104. J.J. Pegues super fun. You also can use him as like a tight end / fullback. The GOAT, friend of the show, Bradyn Swinson, is at number 105. And if you guys are watching this, feel free to continue watching to the end because we are having actually Bradyn Swinson on the show, and we're going to be including him at the end of this video. So hopefully you guys can go and watch that. At 106, the New England Patriots go Lathan Ransom, who within the top 15 to 20 yards and including in the red zone, he might be the best safety in the class when healthy. The Jaguars get an absolute shit talker here in Kobe Bryant at 107. I like that. It brings a lot of energy to the corner core. You don't want too many of those guys, but I think that would be a really good corner 3 to have. The Raiders then go Dorian Strong at 108. It feels like it feels very similar to what I would expect Pete Carroll to do. Just get high-level talent who has a good amount of IQ, and that's what Dorian Strong brings. Bills then go Kyle Kennard, a really solid edge rusher. Can't complain about him at all, especially at 109. He's someone who could have been a legit late one in the middle of the year. The Jets then go Gunnar Helm at 110. I'm just not a fan of Gunnar Helm at this point. I really tried to force myself to like him and boost him up my rankings, and still really couldn't do very much there. Gunnar Helm, not the biggest fan in the world. Panthers then go RJ Mickens at 111. I'm glad to see him get some love. I don't know about him at 111, but I'm still grading the safety class for the depth guys like RJ Mickens. I could end up seeing myself falling in love with him because he was fun to see in person. Saints then go Wyatt Milam at 112. This is a dude who was a late one, pretty much a lock in the middle of the year. So, he just fell off because of his hand injuries, didn't do too well in Mobile, but at 112, that value is impeccable. Savion Jones goes to the Niners at 113. Fun edge rusher from LSU. And again, if you guys do like LSU edge rushers, we are having Bradyn Swinson come on the show at the end of this. So please end up waiting and, finding yourself a little bonus content on top of all this. The Panthers then go Denzel Burke here at number 114. He former first-round quality player as well. Ended up improving after being exposed mid-year, which is always good to see a bounce back. The Cardinals go Deone Walker at 115. It'd be fun to see how Gannon ends up using him. At number 116, the Dolphins go Omar Norman-Lott. He's someone who I think is a top 50 player. He just doesn't have a lot of experience, especially in the run defense category. He has like 80 reps per year at most. You got the Colts then going Smile Munden at 117. I feel like it's a little bit of a reach, and I like Smile Munden, but the Colts snipe dudes on day 3 at the linebacker core. I'm going to trust them more in that department than anybody else. The Falcons go Baron Sorrell at 118. Really solid edge rusher. I don't know if I would say he's worth a 4th round pick, but I do think that, he is worth taking a swing on it on day 3. Bengals then snipe Harold Fannin Jr. as he slips. I think it's a way overblown in terms of the criticism for him. He is one of the best tight ends that we've ever seen in college, and I do think that he is worth a day 2 pick. Speaking of someone who's worth a day 2 pick, you got the Titans going Kyle Williams here at 120. This guy's incredible. I could easily see him slipping into the 2nd round and being a surprise to a lot of people. The Buccaneers go Pooh Paul Jr., Chris Paul. Very solid linebacker. This is a good range for him, like late 3rd range, I think is better. But he's also somebody that ended up being tested with 29-inch arms and ended up actually having 30 over 30-inch arms. So whoever was doing the arm measurements at the combine, honestly, is probably never going to be getting the opportunity to do that again, nor should they. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous when you're consistently mismeasuring players and everybody looks at that as the holy grail. At 122, Broncos go Jake Majors. Could not see that happening at all. If I'm not mistaken, Jake Majors has like the shortest arms or the second shortest arms in combine history for an offensive lineman. And I did not think that he was that good. At 123, the Steelers go Cam Skattebo. Very Pittsburgh Steelery. I would love to see the physicality between Cam Skattebo and Jalen Milroe in a more run-heavy offense. Packers get an absolute Swiss Army knife here. Well, maybe not even a Swiss Army knife. I would call him a scalpel with a Jaden Blue. Jaden Blue is a very fun player. I have a lot of respect for him. The Chargers then go Mitchell Evans at 125. When healthy, he actually is really solid, but I thought he took a big step back this year. At 126, the Jaguars go Josh Gray. Again, I feel like this is the range where you're seeing players that I love and players that I absolutely despise. This is a player that I am unfortunately not on the loving side of. I do not think he's that good. Dominic Lovett kind of was underwhelming to me, 127 to the Rams. I don't really think that he's going to be an impact in the NFL. At 128, the Commanders go Trevor Etienne. Incredible snipe. They do need a running back. I honestly think running back's a very underrated position for them to target. 129, the Ravens go Ashton Gillette, who ended up running in like the 4.6s. That's incredible. I think he's going to end up possibly slipping into day 2 based on that testing. The Lions then go Cam Jackson at 130. He's a big nose tackle, kind of somebody to develop and potentially have as a starter. I don't know if he has that legit potential though. 131, the Saints go Jordan James, one of the most underrated players in the draft. I'm a huge fan of his game. Same thing with Devin Neal, who goes to the Buffalo Bills at 132. We have a run on running backs here. We'll talk about Bishal Tootin in a second, but Devin Neal, very underrated, just not a plus athlete. That's just his big issue, but everything else is great. The Chiefs going Bishal Tootin at 133 is kind of the opposite. He's someone who didn't really play as well as what his stats say, and ended up being a combine monster, man. He's fun to watch, but the fumbling's a huge issue. Logan Brown goes to the Eagles at 134. This is something I could totally see happening. He's a right tackle potential with a ton of athleticism. I think he's going to be really good. The Dolphins getting Kyle McCord at 135 is perfect. I think he'd operate their offense very well, and for that value, he's one of the best throwers of the football in the class. Maybe not the best quarterback, but the best throwers of the football. Nick Nash goes to the Ravens at 136. I don't think there was anything that popped out to me in Dallas at at the Shrine Bowl. I just didn't really end up being a player I thought was anything special. Seahawks go Jamari Caldwell at 137. I think he's a very, very good athlete. This is a very good pick. You're getting yourself someone who could be a legitimate mismatch with his leverage as well as athleticism. The Niners then go RJ Harvey at 138. Explosive, not the best top-end speed in my opinion, but someone who loves to bounce it to the outside and be a home run hitter. That's going to be perfect for the Niners offense. Round 5, we have the Vikings going Xavier Restrepo, who ended up running horribly, like a 4.8 40, and his vertical speed is like first percentile or second percentile. But every other route, he did really well, and I think that actually works pretty well in the Vikings offense. At 139, you're getting yourself someone outside of being a vertical threat, which you kind of already have with multiple other players. Very reliable weapon. Panthers and go Jared Ivey at 140. You guys are kind of collecting all these interesting builds for edge rushers, and Jared Ivey at this point, you can't complain. The Titans end up sniping arguably one of the best linebackers in the class, Danny Stutzman. We'll be ending up bringing out a day 3 studs video where you guys will see my analysis on Danny Stutzman. Number 142, the Jaguars go Caleb Rogers, Texas Tech tackle. I'm going to be honest, he never, ever, ever popped out to me, so I'm actually quite surprised that Rodgers would be even in this. Raiders end up bringing Will Howard back to Chip Kelly. I'm a huge fan of that. 143, Will Howard to Las Vegas, A+. 144, Patriots go Malachi Moore. He's a very underrated player, someone who I'm finishing up my eval on him again. I thought that last year he did a fantastic job. This past year, I don't know why people are genuinely shitting on this guy. It's almost Chauncey-esque to be able to see him like make big plays, but also let up big plays. But I think he's even more consistent than Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. The Jets then get Dante Thornton Jr., which I think is like very similar to Christian Watson. At 145, the value is certainly there, and I think that's right around where I have Dante Thornton on my board. 146, the Panthers go Kobe King, who just ran a 4.6 at 240 pounds. Really good value there for the Panthers. The Niners end up getting Thomas Fedone. At 147, I'm going to be honest, I nicknamed Fedone the Flintstone because he literally, the way he runs is just, it's just not normal running movement. It's very interesting. You guys have to see it in person, but he looks like he's from the Flintstones when he's running. At 148, the Bears go Elijah Badger, really good after the catch. Honestly, pretty good weapon in the slot. Cowboys end up getting David Walker at 149. At his frame with his arm length and everything, it's going to be intriguing to see how he ends up working out in the NFL because he was very productive in college. 150, you got the Dolphins going Jalen Lane. Jalen Lane's a fun wide receiver, man. Very, very fun wide receiver. I just don't know how many more fun wide receivers the Dolphins need to target. At 151, you got the Colts going Upton Stout. Upton Stout's a really, really good slot cornerback. I just don't know how desperate you're going to be for a slot cornerback, but he can even play on the boundary if need be. At 152, you got the Cardinals going Jalen Smith. You guys see he's on my board. He's visible. He's number 13. And again, for the day 3 sleeper video, I will be doing my initial evaluation. I'll be reading it for the first time on the show. We wasn't even in the analysis for my original 40 cornerbacks. So I'm super excited to be able to give you guys that in the next week. The Bengals go Brew McCoy at number 153. Do not think he's going to go that high, but he's a fun receiver, just not very athletic. At number 154, the Giants go Jalen Travis. This is a little bit more up the alley than the Texas Tech tackle. He has a lot of potential there, but going to need some time to develop. I do like the offensive line coach for the Giants. The Dolphins again go Johnny Cornelius, really good backup offensive tackle, but I think he can legitimately start at guard. This is a really good pickup on day 3 and someone who I'm arguably going to be putting in that day 3 gem video. Steelers going Holland Pierce at 156. We haven't developed our tackles well enough to be blessed with Holland Pierce. I pray to the Lord himself that he goes to a place like Philadelphia. At number 157, the Buccaneers go Isaac Tesla. I mean, he's a vertical threat. I just don't really think he'd carve out too many reps on the Buccaneers. The Chargers then go Ty Hamilton at 158. Again, very underwhelming. I don't think he'd be a very impactful player. But speaking of someone who I do think is impactful, it's CJ West, who agreed to come on the show, but I've already interviewed him in person in Dallas, one of the nicest individuals that I met. I think he's going to be an A+. He's an A+ locker room presence, but his tape ended up saying he's worth a fringe day 2 pick. So you add those together, and I think he's a day 2 NFL player. And I think Green Bay is getting a snipe there, as they usually do on day 3. The Niners end up getting Cody Simon at 160. I mean, I haven't fully graded Cody Simon out, but the constant times I've watched him, he is very hot and cold. I think the Niners can end up making him work. And if Cody Simon can work out, I think the Niners might be the best location. Eagles then go Joe Huber at, I think it's Huber at number 161. Just going to be honest, this dude never stood out to me at all. I think this would be an absolute whiff. The Jets go Mello Dotson at 162. Mello's a good player. I don't know why. He just didn't look as good in person. And then looking at the All-Star circuit, I don't think he really performed as well as I wanted him to either. Just somebody who is going to be lurking there in that early day 3 range, has a lot of potential nonetheless. For the Panthers, they go Damian Martinez at 163. I don't know how many more back styles that you want there in Carolina, but Damian Martinez could bring the boom, so to speak. Eagles go back-to-back with Sebastian Castro and Tez Johnson. I think Tez is pretty much going to replace Ainias Smith, which you could do it. Like, Ainias is kicked off the team. This is the case. Sebastian Castro is going to be a really solid slot. That means, in my opinion, if you get Sebastian Castro, I think he will genuinely win out the slot role and end up kicking Cooper DeJean to the boundary. But this is one of the best. Honestly, I forgot about Sebastian Castro. I need to put him in my day 3 video. Thank God I didn't record that yet. Really top-end player. He's just not a good athlete at all. The Texans then go DJ Giddens. I've had my complaints with DJ Giddens, but he's someone who I'm going to reevaluate. I just didn't see it with him. 167, the Titans again, another one of my favorite players, Mac McWilliams. I have him as a top 50 player in the class, one of the smartest zone corners, and honestly, the Titans ended up sniping another one of my top 50 guys in the most recent draft in Jarvis Brownlee Jr. I could end up seeing them working together very well. The Eagles end up getting one of the most athletic linebackers with Teddy Buchanan here. The linebacking core could definitely use that infusion of juice. The Bills then go back-to-back with Jeffrey Bossa and Vernon Broughton. Jeffrey Bossa, solid linebacker. Honestly, I have actually a pretty low grade on him. I think his IQ is not very, very good. I think he's still kind of a safety, not really a linebacker. Vernon Broughton, he actually ended up having a really solid end to the year. We just didn't get to see him through the All-Star circuit. The Cowboys get a very good developmental tackle here in Carson Vincent. Good arm length, very high upside. At number 172, the Seahawks go Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel's a solid quarterback, especially at 172. I think he gets way too much shit. At number 173, we got the Bills going Zy Alexander. Zy is a good player and has safety potential. I like that safety upside, especially on the Bills. The Cowboys then go Tyrion Ingram Dawkins, he had some really good flashes through the All-Star circuits. 174 feels a little bit early, but I'm not going to complain too much. Zaw Frazier is a perfect fit there in Seattle to be able to grow under another UTSA corner that you guys already have on your rosters. So Zaw Frazier, he's a little bit skinny, but he flies for his size. He has small hands, but he has good ball production. Going to be intriguing to see if he works out in the NFL. The Ravens end up going Jackson Hawes. So he had like a 15% drop rate. Jackson Hawes, I mean, he has some really solid reps, good blocker, but again, that 15% drop rate is a little bit nuts. At 177, the Bills go Jonas Sanker, and honestly, Sanker has a round 5 to 4 grade for me. This is very good value. Maxon Hook goes to the Titans at 178. Going to be honest, I saw him in person, wasn't wowed, and did not get to study him in all 22. The Browns then go Chim DK at 179. Chim ended up testing out very, very well. I thought he did very well in Mobile as well. I don't understand why he's being looked at as a deep day 3 target, but whoever gets him is getting themselves a very good situational playmaker. The Raiders then go Bryce Cabeldue. I love these Kansas offensive linemen. Kansas develops them very well. You can't really go wrong with selecting them. The Chargers then go Peyton Page. Oh, Peyton Page was fun at the Shrine Bowl. I remember I was talking with Marcus, that franchise guy, and we were talking about Peyton Page. Honestly, he's a good guy to target in round 6 or 7. He has some good flashes. The Jaguars then go Drew Kendall, another player who has some good flashes as well. I'm not a huge fan of how the Jaguars are approaching this draft overall. You got the Ravens and going Jarquez Hunter. Jarquez Hunter is a good late day 3 target. Nothing too crazy. The New Orleans Saints go after Elijah Roberts. They're kind of getting a ton of beef on their defensive line, man. It'd be very intriguing to see how it ends up working out, because he's going to end up kicking to the inside on some of these reps as well for Staley. At 185, the Steelers go Jordan Watkins. I'm not going to be a huge fan of this. We have enough of the Jordan Watkins type, the deep threats. Let's get something new. The Jets get Max Brosmer, which I think would end up being one of the best picks of day 3. His ceiling is sky high. Not many quarterbacks have the balls to throw the passes he can, and he throws it with authority, and it sometimes gets him in trouble, but I think that, especially for being a day 3 quarterback, he is the best of the best in terms of the ceiling. The Vikings then go Aeneas Peebles at 187. He's someone who should be a late day 2 pick, early day 3. His production, as well as his overall dominance. Kalijah Kancey wasn't the most, Kalijah Kancey is a pretty damn close comp for Aeneas Peebles. I'll just put that out there. You got Tennessee Titans going Colin Oliver at number 188. He's a fun edge linebacker hybrid. I didn't really see too much with him because he was banged up this past year. You got the Colts going Dante Trader Jr. at 189. He's a high ceiling, ball hawk. Maryland makes some really good playmakers. At 189, it's worth the shot. You got the Rams going Ollie Gordon at 190. I could not see him working in this offense, but sometimes you just got to take the best player available and make it work. The Broncos then go Josh Simon. Josh Simon's a fun tight end. I don't know if he's going to be a draftable tight end, but I would love to see him with Sean Payton. The Cleveland Browns at 192 go Clay Webb. His talent says that he should be going late day 2, early day 3, but I do think that, with the off-field stuff, there's a reason that Jacksonville State instead of Georgia. He ends up putting him down here to 192, and that's fair. The Bengals then go Jonah Monheim at number 193, also super short arms, garbage anchor. I have my issues with him, but at 193, the talent is there. The Jaguars go APR, Antoine Powell-Ryland, who I used to have as a top 32 player on my board. I think he's fantastic, but he is now down into that near 80s, 90s, and if not 100s range because his arm length was so short. It was very, very underwhelming, but very good player at 194. The Rams at 195 go Quay Robinson. Honestly, one of the players I need to finish up my eval on, but he is a fun player, very powerful. Good pickup at 195. The Lions then go Keandre Lambert-Smith. I could see this ending up working out. Keandre is somebody who I do think could potentially stick to a 53. He's just a very underrated, very reliable receiver. Bilal Cohn is a fun one. Cornerback out of Western Michigan going to the Denver Broncos. He's going to be a fun defensive back piece, whether it's in the slot or on the boundary. You got the Green Bay Packers sniping Tyler Barron. they end up continuing to kick some ass. So getting a good edge rusher at this point, especially with the production of Barron, I think he has over 20% pass rush win rate, is a little bit ludicrous. You got the Chargers going Theo Weiss at 199. He's a solid receiver, but I don't think he's going to translate to the NFL very well. The Browns then go after Woody Marks at pick number 200. He's a good receiving running back, honestly. At 200, he's worth bringing on. The Rams end up targeting Jake Brittingstool, the tight end out of Clemson, at 201. And then Warren Brinson out of Georgia, the defensive interior, at 202. Those together, honestly, I think they're both really good pickups. Jake Brittingstool feels very similar to me, to my former high school teammate in Colby Parkinson, so I could totally see that ending up working out. Warren Brinson ended up having some very, very good reps in the all-star circuit. I can end up seeing him being a bigger contributor than what his picks suggest. Pat Bryant slips to number 203. He's a fun player. I don't think holistically he's a very good wide receiver. I think that he has some aspects of his game that are very good, and if leveraged properly, he can end up being effective. But I would just say, if you're trying to close your eyes and throw your dart at a board and say, oh, is he going to be a good wide receiver? There's a lot more outcomes that say no than yes. And I mean, to be fair, that is for most players in the draft. Robert Longerbeam goes to the Cowboys at 204. He's a fun player, big playmaker. He ends up having those big games statistically, both on the good side as well as the bad. The Commanders get Tommy Hill, who I think should be a safety out of Nebraska. He's a smart player, but he's just very athletically limited. The Bills go Gavin Bartholomew at 206. You might as well take some dart throws at tight end wherever you can. Bartholomew has a good amount of experience. The Jets go Jack Kaiser at 207. He's someone who I have in my top 5 linebackers. So I think that that's a damn good pick there at 207. Number 208, the Broncos go after edge Jaw Joyner. He's a fun edge rusher. He's big. He ended up actually doing not too shabby there in Mobile. The Chargers get a very experienced player in Steve Linton, edge rusher out of Baylor, formerly Texas Tech. Steve Linton's going to be a steal. I know he's older, but he's someone who's going to be a damn good player in the NFL. Ravens then go Branson Taylor, a tackle out of Pitt. I didn't see anything from him, but that's because I wasn't studying him, to be fair. The Cowboys go Jackson Slater at 211, the guard out of Sacramento State. He ended up having some good reps here in Mobile. I could see that being another fleece. The Ravens go Ethan Downs. Ethan Downs is a good edge rusher. Ended up testing out quite well, so I think that's a good pickup at 212. 213, you got the Raiders going Chase Lunt, another high ceiling tackle. I did not get any UConn All-22, so I did not study him this year, but I've heard a lot of great things from people who did have access to it. You got the Chargers then going Marcus Harris, cornerback out of Cal. At 214, you gotta take swings where you can. Cal ended up having some good defensive performances this year. Vegas ends up being back on the board again, getting Hayden Connor, the guard out of Texas. Again, not a huge fan of the interior of the offensive line there for Texas. You got the Cleveland Browns going Ahmed Hassanin, edge rusher at Boise State. If I'm saying that wrong, please say that I am. But that is a really good pickup. I got a fucking little gnat flying around. Those fuckers piss me off. But Hassanin is a very good edge rusher, especially for the value. Cleveland snipes another one at 216. The Patriots go Jay Higgins at 217. He tested out pretty poorly for his size, but at 217, he has a lot of experience. He's a good player. The Falcons go Eli Cox at 218. Another very underwhelming player. I don't think he'd end up sticking to the roster. The Giants snipe another running back late on day 3 with Brashard Smith out of SMU. Very good running back. I can't see him slipping out of the 5th round, but they get him here in the 7th. Jordan Hancock goes to the New England Patriots to be a slot corner. Again, another player who I doubt would stick to the 53. Jack Nelson is a really solid tackle there for the Jaguars. Could end up seeing him having a big resurgence in his overall stock, but probably after he gets picked rather than before. That's a good pickup there at 221. The Raiders then go Daquan Felton at 222. He's a very fun wide receiver, very well built. I would love to see a team like the Raiders with Geno Smith liking to be able to, he's with his pinpoint ability. I think Daquan Felton could be a very unique weapon there in Vegas. Seahawks end up going Jalen Conyers at 223. He's a fun dart throw as well, good after the catch, and he ended up testing out quite well. Dolphins go RJ Oben at 224. Don't mind it. He ended up having a good end of the year, which I love seeing guys who can turn it on in the biggest moments. The Cardinals then go Shamar James, who tested out much poorer than expected, but a lot of people love him. He's super young. Makes a lot of sense. The Chiefs go Keaton Crawford out of Nevada. He's a fun player. Honestly, at 226, you're just seeing if they can end up sticking to the 53. I don't know if Keaton could. The Niners go Riley Leonard at 227, another player that I think is designated to the practice squad and being elevated from time to time. Lions go Dan Jackson. I mean, that's just such a Lions pick. It's a white dude who hits hard and just looks like a great locker room dude for the energy. I think that's an A-plus pick. Steelers go Donovan Edwards. Donovan Edwards is such a good locker room dude. I ended up talking with Jalen Smith, and Donovan Edwards came and interrupted when I was talking with him, and he was just such a chill dude, and I really like his overall demeanor. He's going to be a good player in the NFL. Whether it's like, starting, backup, or just on the bench, I don't know. But he's just a good dude to have on your team. The Panthers going Brady Cook. I love it. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the world. Honestly, I think this is his biggest weak point, but he's a good playmaker, and I love seeing that with his mobility. At number 231, the Dolphins go after Marcus Siegel. It might be Seigel, safety out of Kansas. He's a fun player who tested out very, very well in the low 4.3s. Colts go Eugene Asante at number 232. I mean, again, I'm going to trust the Colts if they end up wanting to go after a linebacker on day 3. They've been probably the best on the hit rate for that. The Bears go Luke Lachey at 233, tight end of Iowa. I think Luke Lachey is a solid player. I think it's a good pickup for him nonetheless. At 233, it's worth it. Nick Martin, undersized linebacker at Oklahoma State, goes to the Seahawks. I'd love to see him utilized there with McDonald. At number 235, the Buccaneers go Robbie Oots. He's very underutilized. I don't really know too much about him based on his utilization, but it's round 7, man. Texans go after Jermari Harris, which funnily enough, I was talking with Jermari back when I think it was SMU BC, and I ended up talking to Nick Caserio. He was actually there because they were playing the Cowboys the next day or on Monday night or something. And we ended up talking, and I was like, I'll talk to Nick Caserio about you. I did not, because I actually chose my time with Nick Caserio to actually just talk about advice and stuff. But safe to say, people have heard me talk about this. We're deep enough in the video that not enough people are listening. We talked about the guy that I ended up dropping noticeably because I raised some players based on their interviews. I love their energy and stuff. This is the player that I've mentioned. So if you guys have watched some of my streams, you guys know what I have to say about Jermari Harris. But let's just say I dropped his grade. I think his talent is there, but I think he's going to be a cancer in the locker room. The Packers then go Thomas Perry. Did not study him, but take a shot on interior offensive line. Patriots go Seth McLaughlin. Funnily enough, the ex-boyfriend of one of my former friends in college. The offensive line started losing its integrity when he and Josh Simmons ended up leaving. At 239, you got the Cowboys going Yaya Black. Really, really good pickup for a nose with crazy arm length. The Bears to go Miles Hinton at number 240. It's offensive line and the 7th round. You might as well take swings where you can. LaQuint Allen's super young and super versatile. I think the Texans at 241 are geniuses to take him there. The Falcons go Marcus Tate at number 242. I didn't think too much of him when I watched him, but again, we're in the 7th round. Brandon Adams goes to, I think it's BJ Adams, Central Florida, goes to the Baltimore Ravens at 243. I actually think he's a better safety. The Lions snipe Odinell Fortune at 244. Even with the lower of the 2 grades of the 2 games I watched for him, this would be adequate. So really good pickup there. Honestly, I think he has even more upside than that. Ricky White is fantastic. He goes to the Commanders at 245, ended up running a 4.4 at his pro day, which thank God, because he needed to. But really good special teamer as well. The Giants go Xavier Truss at 246. I love the offensive line coach that y'all have, so I think that developmental players like Truss are in good hands. Ty Felton falling this far makes no sense, but the Cowboys end up sniping him. I think that you actually have a very underrated receiving core. Friend of the show, Andrew Armstrong, feel free to check out the interview with him. Goes to the Saints at 248. I think that's impeccable value. Really good job there. Stud Willie Lampkin, 5'10 center out of North Carolina, goes to the Niners. He's going to be their fullback. I think that's a dream. Cam Miller to the Packers at 250. Really good mobile quarterback to have as like a QB 3 or 4. Dan Jackson, super under the radar. Goes to the Chiefs at 251. Just someone who I really do think will stick to a 53. Hunter Wohler is, a headhunter. Really good pickup as a defensive back for the Niners at 252. Justin Wally is a player where I have him in like my 180 to 230 range based on what I can remember. And so at 253 for the Dolphins, I think this is solid. He should arguably be a safety as well. The Saints go Jacob Bayer at number 254, center of Arkansas State. He actually showed out in Mobile. I think that's a good pickup. Might have been in Dallas, one of the all-star circuits. Jason Marshall goes to the Browns at 255, smart zone corner who ended up being out with injury. Khalil Mullings is an absolute bowling ball. He goes to the Chargers at 256 and back to Harbaugh. I'm a big fan of that. And then we end off with the GOAT who used to be in all the way too early first-round mock drafts, Nazir Stackhouse, defensive interior out of Georgia, to the Kansas City Chiefs. Gotta love those Georgia bloodlines. Welcome into the interview portion of the video. We have Bradyn Swinson, the #1 HAILMARY sports guy for this entire season. Bradyn, so glad to have you on. Feel free to say hello and introduce yourself.
How y'all doing? My name is Bradyn Swinson, LSU Tiger #4. Appreciate you guys having me on here, after all the love y'all been showing me.
Oh, yeah. Hey, all the guys are just me. I'm a one-man show, so I've been giving you all that love. I appreciate it. You've been
Yes,
returning
sir.
it in kind. But today we're just going to be chilling, having a good time, and, getting to know each other and allowing you to get to know the average fan. I know that you've had time to talk at the combine, and, that's going to be able to be great to get to know members of media like myself. But this is a great opportunity to be able to get you on the mainstream basis. So I'm super hyped for that because I want you to have as much love as possible. And so starting out, I have this burning question because I got pissed. I'm going to be honest with you, Bradyn. I got pissed. I showed up to Dallas and I live in Dallas. That's a lie. I didn't show up in Dallas. I drove 30 minutes and was excited to see you at the Shrine Bowl. What happened there?
It was just more about just getting prepared for the combine,
Yeah.
just building my body and just overall just being ready for the combine. That was my big focus. I feel like I had a great season, and I didn't want anything. I didn't want to go to the bowl game and then mess around and get like a little nick or nag and everything before I get to the combine. I want to be able to go to the combine 100%
Yeah.
and be able to give my best performance for everybody.
I'm going to give you one pass. But I mean, obviously there are certain metrics. I mean, you look at the fact that I believe you led the SEC in pressures, but regardless, in terms of true pass rush win rate, #2 in this entire draft class to an absurd 40% from Josiah Stewart.
A ball player.
He's a ball player. But I mean, you also are mentioning you are in the SEC getting literally the #2 in the class in terms of true pass rush win rate over, I believe, the past couple of years. So that's incredible. Genuinely, I don't understand this. I don't understand this. Why are people sleeping on you?
Honestly, don't know. Honestly, I feel like with the way I play, I don't know how you couldn't like the way I play. Somebody just want to run through somebody's face
Yeah.
and got a good little pass rushing thing to him. But honestly, it's just I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I guess people just can't believe in it yet. I guess they just want to see. They just want to hop on the train when it's too late. But I'm not really worried about everybody because the right people know, and the right people see it. So when the right people see it, everything gonna work out for you. So honestly, you know, I'm just not a big name guy. I'm not a guy that's just pushing to be the fan favorite or anything.
Right.
I just put my head down and I work, and end of the day, it's all gonna show.
That's true. I mean, it's just crazy though. Leading the SEC in pressure rate, LSU, wearing the #4, might I add. Like, and honestly, the play that I don't know if you remember this exact play, but I'm curious if you processed it the same way that I did when I watched it. It was versus Alabama, and I remember the right guard. I'm forgetting his name off. Jaden Roberts. He
Hmm.
ended up being injured on one play, and he had to sit out. The one play they put a backup guard in, you were the one assigned to rush the guard that was fresh. I thought that was incredible. I thought that was a deliberate choice by the defensive coordinator. And you can tell
Yeah,
me I'm talking out my ass. That's
yeah,
perfectly fine. But it seemed like he knew that there was a weak point, and you were the one at 250 pounds as well, rushing a guard, being the one to choose. That was mind boggling to me. And you still ended up, I believe, getting a sack on that play. So,
yeah.
was that kind of the thought process going into there, or was that just part of the scheme?
That's just something that just happened like on the fly because
Okay.
in game time it goes. But Coach Baker, he was doing a great job of just like just spotting out the differences and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
the play call was just for me to get inside and rush over there. But honestly, like during that play, it was me and Savion was on the same side that play, 35.
I think so. Yeah.
So sometimes we take turns going inside outside. So I just told Savion just to switch to the outside just so I could just
And he
they got a
whooped his
little fish in
ass.
there. Yeah, it's a fish in there. So you wanna attack that fish. So
Yeah.
usually Savion be inside, but we'll switch it up time and time to try to trick the offensive lineman. But
Mm,
getting in there, just Coach Baker putting me in the right situation just to call making the right play call at that time, just so I can get in there
yeah.
and just take control of that guard. You know, that was a great play call, but it got pulled back. That play got pulled back from a little face mask call they called when he was already on the ground.
Some bullshit, man. I tell you, some bullshit. But I mean, the fact is, you were the one who took advantage of a weakness, and at your size as well, you're not premier in terms of someone who should be rushing a guard, and you ended up making it work and making the guard look like an absolute clown. So love that. That was honestly probably it was up there with my favorite plays that I ever saw of yours. So that was great. Another one is actually it was a great rep between you and Proctor. Like you were able
Mhm.
to quickly get past him. You
And he
swiped his hand.
recovered. He
Oh yeah.
recovered, and Milrow stepped up.
Yeah, he pushed you in the like he kind of adjusted and
Yeah.
pushed you in the back. I'm like, first off, Caden Proctor, great job recovering, but you just absolutely embarrassed probably a top 5 to 10 pick next year. Like, I don't know why people aren't understanding like the value that you bring to the table. Like, again, maybe not a household name, but why LSU? I mean, like it's crazy. It's crazy to me. But I am curious. You did really well at LSU. Honestly, you did really well at Oregon. Now, first off, do you attribute your success more to the growth that you've had at LSU? Or do you really think the foundation at Oregon was more important and just kind of allowed you to get to the point where you're at now?
I feel like Oregon built my mental foundation just to be prepared for anything that happens. But overall, my developmental of just football, it was for sure LSU.
Yeah.
Just when I get in there, getting back to the South, getting back to where I was from, having great coaches, having guys going against guys like Will Cameron and Emery,
Mm,
that gets you that'll get you ready to go against anybody on Saturday. So just I didn't have that really much of an opportunity to get like game reps at
yeah.
Oregon. With the coaches change with Cristobal there, my first 2 years, I got a taste of really playing, being behind Kayvon. Whenever he was gassed, I would go in. And then my sophomore year, when he got hurt
Mm,
in the first game, I was able to start my Ohio State game. So that was really the first time I ever got a taste, and really got the mindset in my head that I'm a real ball player, that I belong here. But honestly, just being able to be on the field and get an
yeah.
opportunity at LSU, that really just helped my developmental standpoint.
That's great. Now, what was the thought process in going from Oregon to LSU? Was it opportunity? Was it getting closer to family? I know there's a multitude of reasons, but what really stood out to you is the decision making factor between maybe the other schools you're also factoring into that equation as well.
Just an opportunity to get on the field. I pretty much knew I was going to LSU when I entered that portal. Because
Mm,
I mean, once you get interest from down there, that's a once in a lifetime place to go to. And they just develop. That's what LSU do. They develop NFL talent.
this is true. This is true. Now, I'm curious because you had another outstanding defender on the field with you at all times, and you have, I mean, plenty of them, but I'm talking about Harold Perkins. I
Okay.
mean, this dude, straight up as a true freshman, being 220 pounds was absolutely dicing up people
Yeah.
on the in the edge position, and all of a sudden he transfers to linebacker. So, do you honestly think in the NFL he's going to be a little bit more transitional as a linebacker, or do you think he's going to be like going back to that super crazy level of play that he had at edge?
I feel like that's what bring the value to him because you can really put him anywhere on the field, like even at DB, and he'll still have an effect on the game somehow.
Yeah.
So I honestly feel like he'll be at the linebacker role on the next level. I feel like he
Mm,
like playing a little bit more freely because Perk is a jack of all trades. Perk is able to rush the passer.
yeah.
He's able to cover somebody. He had great coverage grades when he was covering my first year at LSU when he first
Mm,
transitioned there. Got a couple picks. This last season he got hurt, so that was like a little setback for him. But he's
mm.
looking to
He's a
bounce back.
dog.
But I think he's gonna be playing the same middle linebacker position. But
Yeah.
I feel like Perk will be able to excel at any position they put him at. Honestly, he
Yeah.
walk up, get the edge. If you want to play edge rusher,
Mhm.
that really just all comes down to what he want to do and what an NFL team see him as.
Okay, well, like piggybacking off of that, I'm curious. In the NFL, do you feel like, of course, you have the versatility. You're able to play on odd fronts. I mean, hell, you're even able, like we referenced earlier, to play inside on certain reps. But do you think that you are more efficient as a even front end, or do you prefer the ability to also have that outside linebacker capability?
I feel like I'm pretty much used to both of them because I've been in college 5 years and I have five different position coaches and five different,
Mm,
defensive coordinators. So I didn't play Sam Backer and in one year I didn't play the Jack linebacker. I didn't play the boundary
mm,
strong end. Honestly, and then in all those systems, I operated well. I was able to play at a high capability. My sophomore year, I was playing Sam in coverage a lot. doing that. So
Mm.
I honestly feel like just anywhere on the edge, but I feel like anywhere on the field for me, anywhere in that front that I can just put hands on somebody and get to that quarterback, I feel like that's the best thing for me.
Okay, so I assume then that you are most proud of your pass rushing ability if you had to choose between like what you're more proud of between your standard run defense and then pass rush.
I'll say this year I was more focused on being more efficient in my run because I knew I could pass rush. So I'll say more
Mm.
this after this past season I had. I'll say I'm more proud about my run defense. Being able to set edges, getting a couple TFLs here and there, setting
Mm.
firm edges, getting guys out of the way, throwing them out the way. Because I always knew I had some type of pass rush in me. I was always able to get to the quarterback. So I feel like that was just something that I knew I could do. So
Okay.
my main focus was just run defense this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's perfectly valid. Honestly, something that I look for in a lot of prospects is the ability to handle engagements while keeping
Mhm.
your eye on the ball. I call it like sub processing. Basically, you're focused on the ball and you're still able to fight off a block. That was
Yeah.
something I loved about you. Eyes were always in the backfield, always on the ball, and it allowed you to be in position way more often than I think some other players are kind of being not criticized for in this class. So, honestly, tip of my cap to you. Now, I'm curious, you're in the middle of the draft season right now. And what do you think is the biggest surprise? But more importantly, what's the biggest challenge that you've faced in this whole entire draft season? Is it the fact that coaches are telling you, like, why didn't you go to the Shrine Bowl? Or is it going to be a little bit more of something that maybe we aren't seeing?
I'll say the hardest thing is just not knowing where you're gonna be at,
Mm,
just the sitting around process, just thinking about where you're going, just having just being anxious
yeah.
to see where you're gonna end up at, and honestly, who likes you, honestly, and
Mhm.
the process been good for me. The training in Exos in Dallas with a lot of great guys I was out there training with, you
You were
know.
in Dallas?
Yeah, I was in Dallas the whole time.
Man, shit. Are you still in Dallas?
No, I'm back in Louisiana now.
God dang it. Come on, man. Shit. All
But
right.
but
Anyways.
nah, the hardest part was just sitting around waiting and just figuring out what's going on, like
Yeah.
because you're not in those rooms with those. It's not like college where you can pick where you want to go. You getting picked. So
Mm.
that's just the hardest part for me. Just trying not to be anxious, trying to figure out what's going on.
I respect that. Now, I'm curious. Of course, you're always going to be someone who wants to be the best of the best. Your dream is be edge one in the NFL. But we all kind of know that there's time that needs to be like you need to sit behind Kayvon for a little bit to build up your foundation. You need to go to LSU and to go through all these position coaches to build up your versatility. What role do you think right away fits you best as you develop? Like, do you think you're an edge two? Do you think that you would like to be a little bit more into a rotation and then get a little bit more of the pass rushing off the bat because maybe the run defense in the NFL gets like while you're working on that? Or do you think just right away, fuck it, I'm going edge one, I'm going to thrive, and then let's just go?
The mentality should always be edge one.
It's
I
true.
definitely want to get in there and learn from the vets and everybody that's been in there.
Yeah,
But I'm never gonna go nowhere with a mentality. I want to be a rotational or edge too when I know
that's
I can
valid.
play ball because I'm not like a third year player. I feel like I'm 22 years old. I'm not I'm a young guy, but not really young. So it's like I'm coming in with the mindset that I got to go get it. You ain't trying to just go in there and just have a mindset. All right, I'm going to be a rotational. No, I want to go in there and hit somebody in the fucking mouth and just
Talk your shit,
make
man.
something happen. You just don't want to sit around waiting. So it's just a mentality. That's just the mentality I have. I'm
Yeah.
not going there. I'm not going there with a mentality to settle for the less. I'm going out here to try to settle for the best.
Yeah, there you. Your agent told you to say that line.
Nah.
That was too rehearsed. That was too good. That was too good. No, okay. So you've said it a couple times, like similar to Marshawn Lynch, run through a motherfucker's face, right? Is that what you think you are most proud of in terms of your skill set? If you had to single out one thing, saying this is my identity, is it that flexibility, just production? But I feel like you're pretty focusing on the physicality aspect.
Yeah, that's my main thing. I don't want to go anywhere and not be physical. I want folks to know
Mhm.
that I'm physical. When they turn on the film, I don't want them seeing a soft player. When they turn on the film, I want them to see me speed the power when somebody through their helmet, putting somebody on the quarterback lap,
Mm.
and also my ability just not only just to just overpower somebody, but to also have like some elusiveness with it.
This is true. So, I mean, you tested very well in the 3 cone and the short shuttle Like, obviously, it shows that fluidity that you're having there. And when you are in these conversations, now people are looking directly versus Donovan Ezraku, who
Mm.
tested out phenomenally well and is now pretty much a lock in the top 20. It is, again, I'm going to bring this up. What the hell are people kind of seeing that doesn't get them to put you in that conversation? I mean, at least late one. Like, have you
Uh,
had some, like, I know that, again, everything's confidential, but I mean, have you had some late one conversation? Like, I feel like that's a sweet spot for you, is like people talk about that second round consensus. People go above the consensus if people who actually watch your film know that you're better than that.
well, I mean, you see mocks and everything that say you can go on late one. You see a lot of talk shows that have me going like late first, but
Yeah.
sneaking into that first round. But honestly, I think it's just because I only had one honest year of having the opportunity to play for real. I think they go
Mhm.
back and look at my previous years, thinking that I was on the field at Oregon when I really wasn't on the field. Honestly, just
Yeah.
playing with limited snaps, and then going my first year at LSU, playing as just a third down player. You don't really have. I don't really have all the yearly stats to just back it up, but the one
Mm.
time I did get an opportunity, you know, I made the most of it. So that's just
Do
that's
you think
just a
that
part
could
of
be
it.
their like reasoning in their head for maybe why?
Yeah, they probably feel like it's a one trip pony. You never know. So but
Well,
that's just never been me.
I know some one trick ponies have gone in the first round, and there kind of is one already in this draft that we're not going to shit on Texas A&M edge rushers, but I'll just leave it there. You see that, but I mean, there's some one trick ponies that have been given a lot of hype, and I definitely don't think that applies to you. In fact, in my short description of your game, I have master technician. Something that I
That's
really
cool.
love is the fact that you did respond with counters really good time, and I think people love the toolbox, right? They always say, "Oh, the guys, all the tools." But who gives a shit? You can give me a box of like Craftsman tools. I am building a fucking skyscraper, right? Like you have to have the expertise and the timing down. And I thought that's what you had that not many others did, which is why you've been so efficient. Now, the offensive tackles in the NFL are a little bit better at that, but I also think the fact that you have the speed to power base is why I also support your game so much, because let's just say you go up against a Penny Sewell. You bet your ass he's gonna be pretty tough to go against,
Oh
right?
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
all my
he's
friend.
he's a baller. You were there when Penn,
Yeah,
yeah. So
but
you
COVID, but
know,
COVID happened, and then he opted out. So
right, right. So like though, from being in the locker room, that type of presence, it's like that's gonna be tough. But you have that foundation of power again. I mean, I don't need to say it. I talk about it every fucking day, but mind blown. But regardless, if you are when you're going to go to the NFL, you've gone up against some excellent tackles all day long. Iron sharpens iron, right? Like that's the mentality. You went up against Emory Jones. I assume Emory's a little bit more of like an absolute scrapper than Will. Will's a little bit more. I mean, see, I saw that right away. Like Emory's a savage. So, I mean, I'm sure that you've had that experience with the physicality as well as with the technique. Now, in the NFL, what tackle do you think might be closest to your kryptonite, and why?
um, I'm not even gonna say here like I know NFL tackles for real. So I'm not gonna say here like I know NFL tackles for real.
All
But
right. All
you
right. What
know,
on college? Who was the closest to your kryptonite that you faced?
uh,
The one that pissed
probably
you
the
off the
ones
most?
because I always went against. I forgot what that tackle was
Mm.
that I went against my sophomore year at Ohio State. He's at the Browns now. The big old dude. He had
Oh,
long ass
DeJuan
arms.
Jones? The
I don't.
Mountain? Yeah.
Bro, he's huge, dude. And he has long ass arms, and it's like
Mhm.
Pettis from Ole Miss had them long arms too.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of the game, I was figuring him out, but it's just like them long arms, just trying to get them steps, and then he placed them on them. But then once we got deep into the game, it was just barbecue chicken from there.
Barbecue
It
chicken.
was just barbecue chicken from there once I got comfortable.
I
So
never heard someone use that as the phrase. Yeah, I mean, I've heard people say like cooking with Crisco and stuff. I mean, look at me. You think like that's why I hear cooking with Crisco for Christ's sake. But I mean, barbecue chicken, I like it, man. I mean, you're local to the southern region.
yeah.
What is the best way to prepare chicken? Like, there's barbecue. You got fried,
Yeah, you got
Kentucky fried.
barbecue. My pop's barbecue. Yeah, that's what we do. We real
Ooh.
big. So in Georgia, we real big on barbecuing. So
Okay,
yeah,
gotcha. So it's gonna be. Are you from Atlanta?
yeah.
Well, what part?
I live on the outer skirts, of Douglasville.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, again, this is gonna show what I look like. I've been to Buckhead, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
like, that was pretty predictable. Come on, but yeah, okay, that's hype. I mean, I'm surprised. Barbecue chicken is not usually what I hear. Like
Barbecue.
people like love Nashville like hot chicken and stuff. I mean, I try my best not to get that far, but I mean, I gotta admit, I got a couple pounds to lose probably because I end up dipping into some stuff I shouldn't, but that's okay. Anyways, back to actual football and like boosting your stock. So I'm curious, who do you end up modeling your game after? This is standard. I mean, it's bullshit standard question, but I mean, it's true. It allows the people to understand a mental image of who you are if they were going to paint
uh,
a picture.
that's why I liked when you said technician because I like to watch technicians. So I'm a real big Robert Quinn guy, like a Robert
Ooh.
Quinn guy, a Josh Sweat because his slimmer build and just I like to watch guys like Daniil Hunter.
Hmm.
Even Will Anderson, I knew Will Anderson back in high school, so we was at the same
Okay.
All-Star game. So just watching guys that just have the slimmer builds. But
Mhm.
Robert Quinn is really the main one that I watch just because I just like watching technicians. You don't want to. I'm not a guy that want to watch the Miles Garrett's and everything because those
Right.
guys like that is just the freaking nature. They was freaking natures when they came out the womb. 6'7", 270 bending and moving like that. That's
They're
that's
freaks.
that's not that's not taught. So
Yeah.
I like to watch technicians and just learn things from them and just watch
Mm.
their game and then just apply it into mine.
You named 2 Eagles right there. Curious. I mean, Robert Quinn was traded to the Eagles, and then Josh
He
Sweat.
was.
He
Yeah,
was. I mean, he
yeah.
sucked.
Josh
So
Sweat at AZ now.
he was not good. Robert Quinn ended up having like an 18 sack season or something on the Bears and ended up being traded for like a fourth. Did absolutely nothing. But yeah, I mean, still 2 Eagles nonetheless. We'll feel that out after the show. But my buddy's a Eagles fan. But regardless, like you've talked about your versatility, your power. Now in the locker room, what do you think you provide in terms of like that teamwork and overall ethic? Like, are you someone who goes and is like, hey, let's get it going? Or are you someone, because I kind of feel like you have this fiery personality, get your fucking ass up? Like, are you that energy
Yeah.
leader or are you going to be more of that supporter?
I'm more of a guy that just leads by action. Like I'm pretty sure guys at LSU would say I'm not a guy that's gonna just talk a lot. I'm a guy that's gonna
Mm,
come in there and lead by actions. Honestly, I'm a guy that just come into the room. In the cafeteria at LSU, they call me Smiles because I always smiling. So I feel like I'm just a guy
there
that
you go.
just bring good energy into a room.
Mm,
And when we on the field, I'm just a guy that just bring a mentality that everybody just need to follow. If you go, either you gonna follow the program or you not. Because I
mm.
come out there with attitude where I'm coming to get better and I'm coming to run. And again, I'm coming to hit somebody. So it's like if you can't feed off that energy, then it's like you're not a guy that need to be on the defense with me.
So match your energy type of guy. I get that. Now, 2 questions. Are you going to start a podcast when you go to the NFL?
Nah, I don't want to go that route. That's
Good
that's
man.
that's getting people fried for doing that. I ain't
I was
doing
like,
that.
"Oh, please." I mean,
You
our
gotta,
age, I mean, I'm 24, so
yeah.
it's like just guys love getting on podcasts
Yeah,
nowadays.
you just you gotta wait till I feel like you just need to wait till you really establish yourself or anything, really have an established career to even do
Yeah.
that. So I ain't a real guy that's now streaming the video game. Now that's different. I'll stream all day, but it's like a podcast. Nah,
What are you streaming?
video game, anything. I'll be on. I'm still stuck on this game, Black Myth Wukong. I'm on the final boss. I've been stuck on this thing for like a month. I'm not a real big Call of Duty guy. I play
Okay.
NCAA. I stream NCAA. I'm like a head coach on there.
Yeah?
And just things like that. Just any type of adventure games. But I'm not a big Call of Duty guy. I'm sick of Call of Duty.
I ended up getting burnt out in Call of Duty as well. Have you played Red Dead?
Yeah,
Dude, Red Dead's such a good game. It's such a
yeah.
it's such a vibe.
They ain't made a new one no time soon. Them and GTA 5 been just waiting for
I know. It's
who
supposed
who
to come
knows
out like
what.
later this year, and then they're like, "No, I'm just kidding.
I
It's coming
watch it
next
come
year."
out 2026. Watch.
I know. Well, the thing is going to come out 2026, and by that time we're just so old that it's like,
Ain't
all right,
everybody gonna have time to play that.
swear on God, dude, it's so irritating. But we're sidetracking here. I want to be able to let you say goodbye to people. This is something that you say off camera, but regardless, I mean, you've been obviously a treat. Appreciate having you on. Give one final pitch to the people. Let them know why you should be their favorite guy.
Honestly, I'm a guy that's just down to earth, you know. I'm not a guy that just think he's above anybody, you know. I don't have a real ego. I'm honestly just like you guys, honestly. I'd be sitting at home watching the same shows, y'all watch the same animes, you know. I'm just a guy, I'm trying to tell you, I'm just a normal guy that just love to play football, just love to hit people. And you know, shoot,
That,
that's pretty much me, honestly. I'm just a guy that goes to work and just
yeah.
come home and just live a regular life like you guys.
That's such a vibe, man. I mean, it's honestly, it's funny because it's true. Every single person that we talk to are just like real people. But I mean, none of them have just been like, man, I'm just a guy who does what I have to do and does what I want to do and does it well. And that's what you do. So I really appreciate it. For those of you watching, thank you for watching. See you guys. Peace.